I took a budget cruise to Alaska and I stayed in a really weird cabin. Like you, I often dream of taking memorable cruises to places like Alaska. So when I found a 7-night cruise there for less than $500, I couldn't say no. But between staying in one of the weirdest cabins I've ever had and taking 2 excursions that cost more than the cruise, is it possible to visit Alaska on a budget? This is the Carnival Spirit, my home away from home for the next week up in Alaska. Built in 2001 and refurbished in 2018, the Spirit strikes a balance between old school charm and modern updates. With a passenger capacity of just over 2,100, Spirit offers a more intimate cruise experience when you compare her to the megaships of today, which I find is pretty refreshing, especially up in Alaska, where cruising is often a lot more laid back and relaxed than you might find in the Caribbean. This namesake class ship is a fan favorite with Carnival Cruise passengers, and I'm about to spend the next 7 days on board, traveling to places like Juneau, Ketchikan, Skagway, and Tracy Arm Fjord. So let's start at the beginning, the port of Seattle. I arrived at the cruise terminal via Uber and want to make sure you're very aware that if you come by rideshare, you are likely not going to get dropped off directly outside the terminal. Instead, they're going to leave you at a remote drop-off point that is almost a football field's walk away from the entrance to the cruise terminal. But once you get to the terminal and go inside, you're instantly transported into the vibes for the rest of the cruise. When you look around, it's kind of like an Alaskan lodge theme in here. There's rustic wooden decor all around you. It's a very cozy check-in experience. And before I knew it, I was walking down the gangway heading on board the Carnival Spirit. First impressions of the ship were it's very Carnival circa year 2000. From the moment you step on board, you're greeted by rich, warm designs, blending deep wood tones with vibrant, bright colors, the ones that Carnival likes to use in their signature aesthetic. Spirit boasts a wide array of amenities, from fan favorites like Guy's Burger Joint to the tranquil adults-only Serenity retreat areas, and a lively array of bars and lounges abound. And yes, everything you're used to on a Caribbean cruise with Carnival will be found here in Alaska, even the water slides. Now, I told you this cruise was inexpensive and that I ended up making some sacrifices. And the biggest one I made was actually my cabin. Let's talk about cabin 4197. An interior room with a full floor-to-ceiling window. Yes, this is a strange one. Normally, an interior cabin looks more like the one I'm sitting in right now, with all 4 walls being walls. But on the Carnival Spirit, I was fortunate enough to find these cool little cabins, and the cost? It's the same as an interior, but they offer a few little peeks into the outside world while you're cruising by it. Now, this might sound exciting to you because you get to look at the pretty scenery going by, but in reality, what I really got to look at most of the time was Lifeboat 17 for 7 days straight, every time I opened my curtains. But if I positioned myself just right and squinted hard enough, I could catch a glimpse of the outside world through tiny little gaps. I didn't see any whales or bears through these gaps in the lifeboat, but it was nice to know. Is it sunny, rainy, that sort of thing. Despite the obstructed view, the cabin was actually very spacious and laid out just how I like it. I prefer walking into a cabin where the sofa and sitting area is right there next to the door as you're walking in. You can do all your living during the day, and then when it's time to go to bed at night, you retreat to the back of the room to the bed. That feels bigger to me, and I was happy that my room was like that. I know a lot of you will prefer your cabin to be laid out the opposite way to me, so you can tell me about that in the comments down below. Now, in this cabin, you're going to find Carnival's signature bold color palette. A lot of pinks, a lot of mustard yellows, and browns. But this is a very practical space with a ton of storage, and it's a comfortable place to retreat to after long days hiking and exploring out in Alaska. This was a great way overall to save a lot of money, but still fulfill that need for some natural light, a little bit of extra space, and the ability to take a peek outside when I wanted to from my room. I think this unique cabin is a great choice for most people looking to save a bunch of money on a cruise up in Alaska. Overall, the condition in here was quite nice for the age of the ship. Now, there's a few drawbacks with this being an older ship. The lighting in here is a little bit yellow, so it's hard to get an idea of what you actually look like in the mirror. Also, there's a shower curtain, so we're talking butt cheek dental floss when you take a shower. All in all, cabin 4197 is a great room on the Carnival Spirit. The thing with Alaska is that the cruise ship that you're on is sort of the background noise of the entire experience, which is why we aren't going to really spend much more time here talking about the Carnival Spirit. Carnival offers a handful of ships that are all going to give you similar vibes and similar onboard experiences up in Alaska. As well as there's a bunch of other cruise providers up here that also have smaller, older ships, brands like Princess, Royal Caribbean, what have you. In any case, when I'm booking Alaska, I really don't look at the ship specifically. More so, I'm interested in where that ship goes, because to me, that's where the value of a cruise up here actually lies. So let's talk about what there is to do on all the different days from this cruise. And why not just start with the best one, the Glacier Explorer excursion. Remember how I told you that this was a budget cruise? Well, this excursion alone cost half the price of my cruise fare. And I'm really happy that I spent all that money. One of the highlights of a Carnival cruise in particular is your trip up Tracy Arm Fjord. And they offer this little small Glacier Explorer boat experience. And while most passengers on the ship have to stay on board and slowly make their way up the fjord, not getting all that close to the glacier, we're talking if you didn't bring binoculars, you're not really going to see much, but like this little bit. Well, this glacier excursion gives you the opportunity to step on board a small fast boat tour and get up close and personal with this ice that you came to see. At about $250 per person, this is a pricey add-on for your cruise up in Alaska. But this is the top excursion that I would recommend you booking while you're on this cruise. If you thought these glaciers were big, viewing them from a mile away on the cruise ship, just wait till you're up close and personal with all of these floating chunks of ice going past you. You could almost reach out and touch them. Well, here we are, the Sawyer Glacier, and I just gotta say, I was not prepared for the way I'm feeling right now. If you're on the fence about this excursion, I'm halfway through it, and all I can tell you is do it, do it, do it. This is definitely something you want to add on to your cruise. It is an awe-inspiring experience. Not only do you get to view a lot more wildlife from a lot closer, but you get a much better perspective for the sheer magnitude of the whole landscape that's unfolding around you, because you're actually seeing it from basically ground level. And look, I'm not David Attenborough, but the opportunity to see seals, mountain goats, and even the occasional bear was totally worth the expense for me, let alone sitting there 100 yards from a glacier, watching ice chunks the size of houses fall off into the water. This excursion is very popular with Carnival Cruise Line for all the reasons I just told you, so I would recommend booking it early if it's something that you'd like to do. The next day, I found myself in Skagway, Alaska, a town steeped in gold rush history, with the crown jewel being the White Pass Yukon Railway. This historic train ride takes you on a journey through towering mountains, cascading waterfalls, and winding trails carved out by fortune seekers over a century ago. I've often been averse to spending hundreds of dollars on cruise excursions, but here is the second place that I would break that rule on this cruise, by booking a ticket on White Pass Yukon Railway. These tickets come in somewhere in the ballpark of $200, but that money goes a long way towards capturing those breathtaking views. I think this is totally worth the splurge. The trains are narrated on board, and they give you a fascinating look into the area's history, and the scenery that you pass by will make your jaw hit the floor. If you want to experience the grandeur of inland Alaska, this excursion, it's a must-do. I love the fact that you're able to walk outside between the train cars. My tip here on this excursion is to ride in the very back car on the train. It gives you a full unobstructed view out the back of the train car. And when you walk out here, man, it's just a memorable experience that I still hold really special to this day. I am still thinking about this excursion all these months later. I loved my time in Skagway on the White Pass Railway. Wow, so that is the famous White Pass Railway. We're all the way up at the summit. We actually just crossed over into Canada for a few minutes. We're gonna do a little loop, head back down, but we got all the views here. So far, we've gotten up close and personal with glaciers on the Exploration Cruise, and we've taken the White Pass Railway hundreds of feet up a hand-carved mountain pass in Alaska. And oh boy, have I broken my budget. I think I've spent about $450 so far just in excursions alone, which means it's time to stop spending so much money. And our next destination is going to help us do just that, while getting 100% quintessential Alaskan experiences. Up next, we're going to Juneau, where budget-friendly excursions are all around you. As a matter of fact, you can take 2 typically in one day. With Juneau offering some of the best budget-friendly experiences during your cruise, the 2 things that you must do here are the Mendenhall Glacier hike and the Goldbelt Tram. Let's start with Mendenhall, where I began my day. There's a couple ways to get here. You can book transportation through the cruise line, which is a little more costly, or use a third party like Viator. And these options are going to cost you $30 to $50. Or you can take the city bus for a few bucks. That's right, Juneau, Alaska offers city transportation that goes directly from right next to the cruise port to Mendenhall Glacier. All you gotta do is walk into town a few blocks and board this bus. And for a couple bucks, it's gonna take you all the way out there. And once out at the park, there is a $5 entry fee. It's on the honor system, and it lets you hike all the way down these gorgeous, beautiful trails up to Nugget Falls, where you can witness the Mendenhall Glacier from a pretty close vantage point. And this is another unforgettable experience. For me, I've done this hike about 3 or 4 times now, and the best part is you're not spending much to enjoy all of this history and beauty all around you. Along the way on this hike, I've spotted bald eagles and even seen spawning salmon swimming upstream. And I had the chance to dip my fingers in some very cold, very fresh water running off from Mendenhall Glacier. Y'all don't miss this experience. This one should be one of the top ones in your budget Alaska cruise. And the cool thing is, if you time this right, you're going to make it back to Juneau with several hours left in your day. And that gives you plenty of time to walk around town, the old town area, do some shopping or some dining if you want, if you're really trying to stick to a budget. Or if you've got an extra $60, you can do what I did and ride the Goldbelt Tram up to the top of Mount Roberts. Not only does this give you one of the best views that you'll have throughout your cruise, but up here you'll have the chance to hang out in an old wilderness lodge. You can catch a bite to eat up here, have a drink or two, and just enjoy the lodge. Or if you're a little bit more adventurous, there's a ton of hiking trails right outside that offer you the chance to see some truly awesome things. All right, so there is a little outside area up here. This is the whole tram, the upper station right here behind me. You can see this whole portion here. This is a line full of people here. Probably gonna be about 45-minute wait. Well, it got really cold up here and the rain has started, but this trail is something to look at. It's got trees that are older than you, plus me, plus your friend, plus your mom. They're like 400- or 500-year-old trees up here. This is a beautiful trail. I'm gonna hike it. It says it's about a half a mile. There's not a ton of signage, but on the way up, there was a lady coming off in a stretcher who did this in flip-flops, so let that be a lesson to you. Up here, you're kind of stuck in the clouds. This is, in fact, quintessential Alaskan weather. There's gonna be some fog and some rain for the most part, but every so often, you might get a break in the clouds and just see the rolling hills off in the distance and just breathe in all of that crisp, fresh air, take in that greenery that is Alaska. I know a lot of us, we live in cities, we live in towns, we're not getting this kind of thing back home. And this is going to be yet another one of those great memories for you up here. Personally, I was able to spend about 2 hours hiking around up here, taking pictures off the side of Mount Roberts, looking down into Juneau. You can peek down into your cruise ship once in a while. It's a really cool experience. And the best part is It boards and lets off right outside the cruise port. You can literally maximize your time to the best of your ability by taking this one. It's so close. Just be conscious about getting back down to your ship because it can often take half an hour to an hour to get back down the tram to head down the mountain. Wow, Mendenhall Glacier and the Goldbelt Tram. What perfect experiences in Juneau, Alaska. But what if I told you our next stop is going to be even more affordable? The next day, I found myself in Ketchikan, a charming small town that's best explored on foot. I took a leisurely stroll through the colorful streets here, stopping at a few local shops and historic landmarks along the way. I even found a really fun place off the beaten path to have some local food before I made my way back into town and stopped to take in the famous Lumberjack Show. Tickets for this are around $45, so this is the cheapest official excursion that we've seen so far. I think this is a reasonable price to pay for the entertainment that you get here. It's a funny competition and it offers you a glimpse into the logging heritage up here in Alaska. It's the perfect way to experience Ketchikan and still have most of your day free to do sort of as you please. There's a very long pier area to walk along in Ketchikan with tons of great little shopping and dining opportunities along the way. This is a port that you really don't have to book an excursion officially, and you're probably going to find something to do right in the general vicinity. But also, one of the things I like about Ketchikan is it gives you the chance to spend a little bit of time off the ship, but then get back on board and enjoy some of those amenities that the cruise ship offers. Remember, there's places like the thermal spa on board that you might even have a complimentary steam room or sauna to use. There's all those hot tubs. It's a great time and a lot of people are off the ship. So this is a great cruise port to enjoy those onboard amenities. And that's what I ended up doing. Now, with all of the Alaskan ports out of the way on this cruise, you might think it's time to pack your bags and head home. But most definitely no. It's actually time to get your binoculars out and enjoy all the whale watching that you have on your way to Victoria, British Columbia. This is going to be some of the best opportunities that you have on your cruise to spot those flukes and spouts coming out of the water as your ship slowly makes its way into Victoria, British Columbia. And once you get there, this brief stop is actually the perfect opportunity to stretch your legs a little and take a serene walk into town. As a matter of fact, it's only about 30 minutes or so, or a cheap taxi ride, and you'll be right in the heart of a bustling city where you can watch seaplanes taking off or explore local government buildings or even see these really cool floating houses. This is all free to do, and it's a great little self-guided tour. I think you should try this out when you're in Victoria. And of course, no visit to Canada is truly complete without trying some of the local authentic dishes. And for me, that local dish is poutine. I know a lot of people are gonna poo-poo this stop and say, oh, well, stay on the ship, there's nothing to do in Victoria. But it's a great chance to get off one last time on this cruise, enjoy that crisp Pacific Northwestern air, and take that last picture with your cruise ship, because honestly, it's a really good opportunity for that. So for those of you who came here wondering, can you do Alaska on a budget? Hopefully I've shown you the ins and outs of having 100% of that authentic Alaskan experience while holding on to some of those hard-earned dollars. And if you want a little deeper look into what it's like having this type of budget experience in Alaska, why don't you join me over in this video where I took the last cruise of the year with Royal Caribbean on a cruise that cost half as much as it did in August. And I found out exactly why it was so cheap. We'll see you there.
La 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 la.